Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. Today we're looking at the best Destiny build under the lens of the newest DLC. This build deals upwards of 290,000 damage from a single ability, has that ability generate half of our super, and allows us to spam that ability like crazy, while also showcasing how this build has the chance to get even stronger with the new melee damage stacking system, and almost triple the super gains for even more damage and even more super spam. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And like with all my builds, there are dim links down below for your convenience. There are also timestamps in the description so you can scrub through and see things like fragments or even upcoming changes. And as usual, if you like this video and want to see this in action when Edge of Fate drops, a subscription would be greatly appreciated. Now, beginning in standard fashion for the best builds, we skip our exotic weapon and go straight to exotic armor because the weapons we use don't need to be exact and can be switched up for whatever activity you play, be it Nightfalls, seasonal activities, raids, or dungeons. The exotic armor of choice is also one that can be found on our exotic class items, giving this build more depth while being totally optional. I'll talk about the class item towards the end of the video for anyone looking to go that little bit further. So for our exotic armor piece, it is the ever-broken Syntheseps. This exotic reads, when you're surrounded, gain increased melee and super damage, as well as improved weapon handling and reload speed. In game, I almost feel like I don't need to show it off with how much I talk about it, but we'll do it anyways. Our base melee hits for 10,000 damage. When we have biotic enhancement active, which is from the exotic, we deal 28,000 damage. That is a 165% increase. This is what's going to allow our melee ability to nuke everything. This damage increase also proliferates to our super, with T-Crash here dealing about 440k at base, and then dealing around 660k with biotic enhancements active. That is a 50% damage increase. Now, that's actually all there is to Syntheseps. We do get some passive stat boost for our weapons, but we genuinely couldn't care less. Synthos is one of the most simple exotics in the game, and that is part of what makes it so broken. But now to start nuking our enemies, we need a bit more than our base melee, which immediately takes us into our subclass. Starting with our super, you have three options: Thunder Crash, Blade Fury, and Glacial Quake. All of these have their merits. Thunder Crash is easily the best DPS super in the game, and it's what I run 90% of the time. The other two are roaming supers with good damage output and insane survivability, while also benefiting from increased super regeneration. For raids and dungeons, I'd recommend T-Crash. For GMs and seasonal content, the other two are often better. After super, we have our class ability. This is usually Thruster for the lowest cooldown, but barricades are great for absorbing lots of splash damage in things like boss damage phases. Run whichever you prefer. Our melee must be Frenzied Blade for the 3 charges it gets. We don't actually use the strand melee though. Then the grenade is going to be Glacier Grenade. This has the highest dark damage available, allowing us to fill up massive chunks of our Dark Transcendence meter with a single ability use. And do note that Transcendence building is very important for this build. And then after our abilities, we have our aspects. The crux of this build is the ever boringly powerful Consecration. This aspect overwrites our Frenzied Blade and gives us an uppercut while sliding that scorches enemies, and a slam that combos out of that, which deals massive damage and causes an ignition to anything it's scorched. In game, we can see this ability go off with us dealing 22,000 damage on the slam and 43,000 damage from the ignition and its yellow number. This equates to about 65,000 damage before being buffed at all. And while we're here, we can add in the Syntheseps buff we covered earlier and see it increased to these two numbers for 175,000 damage from one melee, of which we have 3 charges. And then the next damage increase comes from our second aspect, Knockout. This ability activates when breaking shields or critically wounding enemies, basically doing a little over half their health. Then while active, we get increased melee range and damage. This aspect also has the passive effects of making us amplified and regening health on all melee kills. In game, looking at the survivability bonuses first, we can see the instant health regen whenever we get a melee kill. This is fantastic for keeping us in the fray while at close range, which we will be. We also get amplified, which recently now gives us 15% DR while making enemies just less accurate against us. And for the damage increase, which is what we all want to see, that's a 50% increase to melee abilities, which takes our Consecration Slam all the way up to these two numbers for 262,000 total damage. But that actually isn't even the end of the stacking increases. The last bit of increased melee damage for now comes from a fragment called Facet of Courage. This says that our light abilities deal more damage to dark debuffed enemies, and that's 10%. So seeing that against Carl applied to our Consecration, which it can be through a weapon or our Glacier Grenade, we deal the current max of 289,000 damage in one melee. Now I do say current because in Edge of Fate, if we have a 200 melee stat this is getting increased by a further 30% or even more nukage. But I do want to cut in here, this is Toity from the future after I've recorded this video and after the recent twit has come out. There is a lot changing about this build because of the new melee damage stacking system and exotic armor pieces, and there's a lot different. So if you really do want to see how this build performs in the next DLC, which it's going to be broken, I can tell you that, we are going to have to wait until we get our hands on that DLC and I can put out a video, which I will be trying to do day one as soon as possible. For our other fragments, we run faceted balance, so our consecration kills, which are light damage, refund melee energy. Then we run faceted protection for free damage resist when near enemies, which we always are. Faceted dawn, so we give ourselves radiant when hitting enemies with our slam. This is fantastic for following up a melee with a weapon like Choir of One or Lord of Wolves and can be used to stun barrier champions. And then our last fragment is faceted ruin, so our glacier grenade shatters deal a bit more damage and our ignitions have increased AoE. Before we move on from fragments though, Bungie has stated that this exact build will have one less fragment slot when Edge of Fate launches, so in that case, just drop the last one, that being Faceted Ruin, and keep the other 4. And moving on from our subclass, we have our weapon choices. And this is also where we need to talk about Transcendence building. The goal here is to have, at very least, a weapon that generates good dark energy. As with our slam spam, light will be mostly covered. Luckily for us, the most overpowered loadout in the game fits right into this. Tenacious Mastery is the easiest no-brain pick here. With Chill Clip, it stuns overloads and unstops and generates so much dark energy. And then pair with that, we can run Choir of One or Lord of Wolves simply because they're just broken, but also because they can generate good light energy if necessary. You could also swap either out for a similar element of an area denial frame like Lost Signal if you prefer that type of weapon. But in 99% of cases, we run these weapons because they're great, but also so they can just build us Transcendence. Then for heavy, just run whatever. I usually run an Eager Edge Sword because you don't even need the heavy weapon damage. And after weapons, we have armor. And this will be the biggest change from now to the upcoming Edge of Fate DLC. First, with what the build uses now, we run Resilience, Discipline, and Strength in that order. We've lowered investment in strength because we get a lot of regen from armor mods, but this will be changing up a lot in Edge of Fate. Without turning this video into a new stat breakdown, we will be running 100 health, which is now resilience, 100 melee, which is now strength, and 100 super, which is now intellect, come the Edge of Fate. This spread will give us good survivability and amazing ability spam. If you do want to know the details of what craziness 100 stat and melee and super will do, watch my last video. But it basically means we get our melee and super back extremely quick. And then any extra stats can go into melee so that it deals even more damage above that 100 stat. But now before moving on from armor stats and looking at armor mods, we can quickly cover the exotic class item. For me, I run the Spirit of Inmost alongside Spirit of Synthos. This combo is perfect for running and gunning type activities. As you can see, if we use our abilities in sequence, it massively decreases all of our cooldowns. This ensures we can spam grenades or melees when necessary. And do note, with 100 stat melee in Edge of Fate, this is actually going to be coming back nearly 3 times as fast, so it'll be even more broken. Now, another thing to bring up is while the class item performs the same as the regular Synthoceps exotic for our melee, it doesn't increase our super damage, which is a worthy trade-off for crazy ability spam. But now, finishing our armor section, we have the armor mods, for right now at least. If you want to see the new mods, you'll have to subscribe and see the Edge of Fate version of this build when I release it, probably day 1. So for now, the helmet, we run 2 hands-on so that all of our melee kills give us tons of super energy. We'll try to use this in Edge of Fate too. On our arms, we use 3 heavy-handed so that after spawning an orb with a melee kill, we only have to wait 1 second to spawn another, essentially 1 orb with every slam. Our chest is just for resists, catered to your activity. Legs is a recuperation, so when we pick up an orb, we get health back, and then an invigoration, so we also get a chunk of melee energy back too. And then our class item is Special Finisher for free special ammo, Powerful Attraction to suck up all the orbs nearby when we use our class ability, and Proximity Ward so we become invincible while finishing enemies. And the last bit before the gameplay loop is our artifact, which, seeing as this is a build meant for next season, we don't need a single one. Just use whatever champ mods right now are necessary, and then the only true thing that could fit into our build is Limit Break, which would make our Thunder Crash deal more damage while we're amplified. But if you're using this build right now, just use the Void perks and Bolt Charge ones if you're looking for what to choose. In Edge of Fate though, we can use artifact perks to deal more solar ability damage, and even just flat out more melee damage thanks to Shield Crest. However, that is a topic for a different video, you'll see that soon. So now to finish it with a gameplay loop, we start with no Transcendence. So we want to fix that. Throw a Glacier Grenade and Consecrate immediately to build a ton of both sides. Your abilities will start to come back faster thanks to the exotic class item if you have it, but if you don't, just use your weapons to top off the Transcendence meters. As soon as you have Transcendence, pop it, and begin spamming abilities like crazy. Use all your melees, then throw a grenade to increase your melee regen. At this point, I haven't even said what you need to do to increase your melee damage or stay alive, because all of that is just going to happen naturally. Melee kills spawn orbs and heal you, with those orbs healing you and refunding abilities. Just being close enough to melee things increases melee damage thanks to Synthos, and those melee kills increase melee damage further. It's incredibly simple to pull it off, you just need to be aggressive. Within a short time, you should have whichever super generated, which should be used on the first thing that won't die to a single slam. When you run out of Transcendence, your only goal should be rebuilding those meters. If you're in champion activities, Tenacious does overload and unstops, while Slam will stun unstops and make you radiant for easy kills and stun barriers. This build does everything, and it does it so effortlessly. And remember, it's just getting better with Edge of Fate. And that said, I think it's everything I wanted to say. Remember, there are dim links down below, one for the class item and one for regular Syntheseps, and I will be re-releasing this build once I can use it in Edge of Fate with all the updates. So watch out for that to see if anything actually gets changed. And thank you for getting this far into the video. Your viewership is greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for 17,000 subscribers. I couldn't be more appreciated. Now, as for the usual outro stuff, if you want to support me, support the channel, a like, a comment, a subscription goes a very long way. Joining the Discord also lets me know if you want to engage with the community more. Want to support me and support the channel, but you can't think of a comment down below. Titans need a buff, because after seeing this, I think maybe they're a little too weak. With that, as usual, I hope you are having a great day, and I hope to see you around.